Welcome to Biden Brief. The content of the briefing includes firings, feuds and anti-Semitism, Roger Waters' long history of controversy. House Republicans hold first hearing on Biden impeachment. Election denier Kari Lake to seek U.S. Senate seat in Arizona, WSJ. The American soldier who bolted into North Korea 2 months ago has returned to the U.S. Biden is targeting Trump's extremist movement as he makes democracy a touchstone in re-election bid. Firings, feuds and anti-Semitism, Roger Waters' long history of controversy. Telegraph. Roger Waters, the former Pink Floyd bassist and co-founder, has faced allegations of anti-Semitism and offensive behavior from former bandmates and associates. The accusations were made in a documentary called The Dark Side of Roger Waters, which featured interviews with Pink Floyd producer Bob Ezrin and Waters' touring saxophonist. They claimed that Waters had a deep hatred of Jews, and that some band members had hidden their Jewish identity for fear of being fired. These allegations have further tarnished Waters' reputation, which has already been marred by provocative and offensive public statements. Waters has been an outspoken advocate for left-wing causes such as Palestine and Julian Assange, but his behavior and statements have caused many to distance themselves from him. The documentary also highlighted other controversial moments in Waters' career, such as when he spat on a fan during a concert in 1977, and when he fired Pink Floyd's keyboardist, Rick Wright, during the making of the Wall album. The film also touched on Waters' legal battles with his former bandmates and his involvement in the boycott, divestment, and sanctions (BDS) movement against Israel. Waters' behavior and statements have caused a backlash among politicians and the public. He has been criticized by figures such as Keir Starmer, Michael Gove, and the Biden administration. The controversy surrounding Waters is likely to damage his reputation and could have long-term consequences for his career. House Republicans hold first hearing on Biden impeachment. The Independent. House Republicans have held their first impeachment hearing into President Joe Biden, alleging bribery and corruption. The House Oversight and Accountability Committee, chaired by James Comer of Kentucky, claimed to have uncovered a mountain of evidence showing that Biden abused his public office for his family's financial gain. The White House has dismissed the allegations as baseless and a political stunt. Former President Donald Trump has encouraged House Republicans to impeach Biden in retaliation for his own impeachments. The impeachment proceedings have been widely criticized by Democrats as a waste of time and taxpayer dollars. Election denier Kari Lake to seek U.S. Senate seat in Arizona, WSJ. Reuters. Former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake, a Republican who has echoed false claims about election fraud, will reportedly announce a bid for the U.S. Senate in 2024. Lake is set to challenge incumbent Senator Kyrsten Sinema, an independent, in a potential three-way race. Arizona, a battleground state, could play a decisive role in future presidential elections. Lake has aligned herself with former President Donald Trump and has refused to concede the 2022 gubernatorial race despite losing legal challenges. Democratic U.S. Representative Ruben Gallego is also challenging Sinema, while Lake faces competition from other Republicans. Lake hopes to meet with Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, and has expressed her support for him as leader. President Joe Biden will use a Thursday appearance in Arizona to warn of the threat to U.S. democracy from far-right Republicans. Independent voters have expressed concerns over Trump's election fraud claims. The American soldier who bolted into North Korea 2 months ago has returned to the U.S. The Toronto Star. Private Travis King, the American soldier who ran into North Korea across the border between the Koreas more than 2 months ago, has been returned to the U.S. King, who had served in South Korea, ran into the North while on a civilian tour of a border village on July 18. He has now been taken to a Texas Army base for medical checks and interviews. His return was organized with the help of ally Sweden and rival China. Biden is targeting Trump's extremist movement as he makes democracy a touchstone in re-election bid. The Toronto Star. Joe Biden has suggested that the MAGA movement represents a threat to American democracy in a speech he delivered on Thursday. The president has been warning that Donald Trump and his allies represent an existential threat to the country's democratic institutions. The speech is the fourth in a series of presidential addresses on the topic. His address was delivered near Arizona State University, where the McCain Institute is housed. Biden praised the institute and its proud Republican founder, the late Senator John McCain. In the speech, he argued that not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans, adhere to the extremist MAGA ideology. I know because I've been able to work with Republicans my whole career. But there is no question that today's Republican Party is driven and intimidated by MAGA extremists. Biden's focus reflects Trump's status as the frontrunner for the Republican nomination for 2024. Biden administration to take new actions against anti-Semitism. Reuters. The Biden administration plans to use the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prohibit certain forms of anti-Semitism in federally funded programs and activities. 8 federal agencies, including the Departments of Agriculture, Health and Human Services, and Homeland Security, will clarify that Title VI of the Act prohibits anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, and related forms of discrimination. This move is part of President Biden's national strategy to counter anti-Semitism, which he has stated has risen to record levels in the country. Republicans hold first Biden impeachment hearing as government shutdown looms. Al Jazeera. The first hearing of the impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden has taken place in the U.S. Republican legislators on the House Oversight and Accountability Committee have promised to investigate allegations of corruption against the Biden family as a government shutdown looms. The probe centers on allegations that Biden used his public office for his family's financial gain. Republicans have sought an investigation into the Biden family's affairs since taking control of the House of Representatives at the beginning of the year. Democrats have dismissed the inquiry as politically motivated and baseless. How to master your pet dog, Commander. The Guardian. President Joe Biden's German Shepherd puppy, Commander, has bitten or attacked Secret Service personnel at least 11 times, leaving one agent requiring medical treatment. The dog's previous attacks have earned it less polite code names such as "that stupid dog" and "freaking clown." Dog experts suggest that the dog's behavior is the result of human failure, as dogs will rarely bite without showing signs of stress or warning. They argue that the constant change and chaos in the White House environment may be causing stress for the dog, and suggest managing the dog's behavior with training and a calmer environment. Biden to announce library in honor of longtime friend John McCain in Arizona. CNN. President Joe Biden will announce the construction of an Arizona library in honor of late Republican Senator John McCain. The McCain Library will provide education, work, and health monitoring programs to underserved communities in the state. The library is funded by the American Rescue Plan in partnership with the McCain Institute and Arizona State University. Biden's announcement is expected to include warnings about ongoing threats to U.S. democracy, highlighting the central argument in his potential rematch with Donald Trump. McCain's widow, Cindy McCain, will be in attendance along with Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs and members of the Arizona delegation. How Sky News' U.S.-centric digital play is fracturing its newsroom. The Sydney Morning Herald. Sky News Australia's digital strategy, which focuses on delivering content to a conservative US-based audience, has caused tension between the broadcaster's news and digital teams. The strategy involves breaking up hours of content daily, prioritizing coverage of US President Joe Biden, culture war issues, and the royal family. This has attracted a growing global audience, but many of the broadcaster's local news teams feel their work is being ignored. The focus on the digital team has led to a divide within the company, with one senior newsroom member saying that there is a massive divide due to the profits generated by the digital strategy, which caters predominantly to a foreign audience. Sky News digital editor, Jack Houghton, and the head of digital, Tim Love, have been instrumental in the success of the strategy, which has included recruiting controversial international talent as digital commentators. The digital team has been given preference and protection, with the endorsement of CEO Paul Whitaker. Almost 38% of Sky News' digital audience comes from the US, compared to 26% in Australia. Britain's Labour Party takes lessons from Joe Biden. Economist. The UK's Labour Party is looking to the US Democratic Party and President Joe Biden's administration for inspiration as it prepares for a potential general election next year. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has been studying the Biden campaign's use of data, framing of economic policy, and focus on job creation rather than culture wars. The party also hopes to align its economic policy with Biden's approach, particularly when it comes to boosting domestic manufacturing and reducing dependency on China. However, some experts have warned that replicating Bidenomics in the UK could be challenging due to the country's weaker public finances and smaller market size. Labour is also seeking to play a more prominent role in Europe, particularly as the UK's influence in Washington has weakened since the Brexit referendum. The party is proposing new and rebooted defence agreements with the EU, Germany, and France, as well as structured dialogue on strategic challenges. It is also exploring the idea of a continent of concentric circles in Europe, with the UK as an active participant on its outer rim. However, the EU is likely to guard its autonomy of decision-making, and may be hesitant to engage in formal dialogue. Labour hopes that a progressive moment will align with a Labour victory in the UK, the re-election of Biden in the US, and the election of centre-left and Liberal governments in Australia, Canada, France, and Germany. However, experts have warned that the UK's influence in Washington has declined in recent years, and replicating Biden's economic policies in the UK could be difficult. Additionally, the EU may be hesitant to engage in formal dialogue with the UK. Live, US House panel holds first Joe Biden impeachment inquiry hearing. The Independent. The Republican-led US House of Representatives will hold its first hearing in its impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden. The hearing by the House Oversight Committee is not expected to reveal new information about Biden's financial ties to his son Hunter Biden, but will serve as a justification for the probe and a review of what details Republicans have uncovered so far. Republicans allege that Biden and his family personally profited from policies he pursued as vice president during the Obama administration. Live, U.S. House panel holds Joe Biden impeachment inquiry hearing. The Independent. The U.S. House of Representatives is holding its first committee hearing on the impeachment inquiry against Joe Biden. The hearing, launched by Speaker Kevin McCarthy, will focus on the business dealings of the president's son, Hunter Biden. It is unlikely to reveal new information about Biden's financial ties to his troubled son, but will serve as a review of what details Republicans have uncovered so far. The hearing will feature testimony from a forensic accountant, a former U.S. Justice Department official, and a law professor. Republicans allege that Biden and his family personally profited from policies he pursued as vice president during the Obama administration. They also allege interference from the Justice Department in a tax investigation of Hunter Biden. How painful could a shutdown be? That's up to Biden. Wall Street Journal. The White House has the ability to interpret and enforce the Anti-Deficiency Act during a government shutdown, giving it some flexibility on how the shutdown is implemented. President Biden may have an incentive to ensure that voters feel the effects of a shutdown, as the White House believes that House Republicans will be blamed for any lapse in appropriations. The law mandates that essential services continue during a shutdown, but employees in those sectors don't get paid, while others are sent home. The White House has warned that an extended shutdown could result in delayed workplace and food safety inspections, long lines at airports, and halted infrastructure projects. Why U.S. won't get India and Vietnam to corral China. South China Morning Post. India and Vietnam are not interested in aligning with the U.S. against China, according to Richard Heydarian, a Manila-based academic and author. Despite the U.S. seeking to integrate New Delhi and Hanoi into its strategy against China, Vietnam is focused on de-escalating tensions with China and maintaining party-to-party ties, while India is committed to a multipolar world where non-Western powers have greater strategic autonomy. Both countries are also reliant on Chinese technological inputs and investments, and are more interested in strengthening economic and military foundations than aligning with the West against China. YouTube is generating music videos for white supremacist groups. Washington Post. YouTube is the worst platform among four major social media sites for running ads on content associated with white supremacy and hateful extremism, according to a report by the Anti-Defamation League, and the Tech Transparency Project. The report found that 67 of 130 search terms linked to hate groups and movements on YouTube generated ads. Elon Musk's X came in second, while Facebook and Instagram were the least likely to display ads on such content. The researchers found that YouTube had largely solved its problem with its algorithms recommending increasingly extreme content. U.S. races to fortify grid against extreme weather. Wall Street Journal. The U.S. Department of Energy is set to announce a new round of grants worth $170 million to tribes, territories, and 11 states, including Florida, Arizona, and West Virginia, as part of a $2.3 billion program to strengthen the country's power grid. The administration sees strengthening the grid as crucial to getting more Americans to adopt green alternatives such as EVs, and to transmit more wind and solar energy. Clean energy advocates have long called for expansion of transmission capacity, especially for long-distance power lines that can move renewable energy from state to state. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your friendly neighborhood Dr. Six here, coming to you from the wacky and wonderful world of 6 degrees. Today we've got quite the lineup of news stories, so let's dive right in. First up, we have the controversial former Pink Floyd bassist, Roger Waters. It seems that Waters' long history of offensive behavior and allegations of anti-Semitism have resurfaced in a new documentary. This has further tarnished his reputation and caused many to distance themselves from him. Waters' provocative statements and actions have certainly made waves, but it remains to be seen what the long-term consequences will be for his career. Next, we have the House Republicans holding their first impeachment hearing on President Joe Biden. Allegations of bribery and corruption are being investigated, but many Democrats see this as a waste of time and taxpayer dollars. It's a classic case of political theater, folks. Will anything substantial come out of this hearing? Only time will tell. In other political news, former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake is reportedly seeking a U.S. Senate seat. Lake, who has echoed false claims about election fraud, will challenge incumbent Senator Kyrsten Sinema. This race could be a key battleground in future presidential elections. It's a crowded field, with both Democrats and Republicans vying for the seat, so it will be interesting to see how it plays out. On a more international note, the American soldier who bolted into North Korea has returned to the U.S. Private Travis King, who ran into North Korea more than 2 months ago, has been taken to a Texas Army base for medical checks and interviews. It's certainly an unusual story, and one that raises many questions about what led him to make such a daring move. Now let's talk about President Biden. He's been targeting Trump's extremist movement in his re-election bid, warning that it represents a threat to American democracy. Biden's focus reflects Trump's status as the frontrunner for the Republican nomination in 2024. It's shaping up to be quite the showdown, folks. In a different vein, the Biden administration is taking new actions against anti-Semitism. They plan to use the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to prohibit certain forms of anti-Semitism in federally funded programs and activities. This move is part of President Biden's strategy to counter rising levels of anti-Semitism in the country. It's an important step in promoting inclusivity and combating discrimination. And finally, we have some news about President Biden's German Shepherd puppy, Commander. It seems the pup has been causing quite a ruckus, biting and attacking Secret Service personnel. Dog experts suggest that the dog's behavior may be a result of stress and a chaotic environment. Perhaps some training and a calmer environment are in order. Let's hope Commander learns some manners soon. Well, folks, that wraps up our news for today. Remember, I'm always here to bring you the latest and greatest from the 6 degrees world. And now, it's your turn to join the conversation. What are your thoughts on these news stories? Do you have any burning questions for the good Dr. Six? Share your ideas and let's get the discussion going. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6 Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6 team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6 Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6 Brief via email.